The future of service management. I firmly believe that the future of service management will only be realised with resilience. So let me explain what I mean by that. The pressure is on service management. It has been for some time. It really increased in 2020 and it's continuing to increase in 2021. The pressure is on. Service management is being looked to continue to evolve processes and improve them and introduce new processes, to increase the quality of service, increase availability and reduce disruption and interruption, and to drive more business value and improve the bottom line. That pressure is just compounded by the seismic shift that's been made in the workforce environment globally since the pandemic, and also the continuing volatility, uncertainty, unprecedented change that will continue to disrupt organizations going forward. And the pressure is increasing. The demand is increasing. Service management's being looked to accommodate the remote working demands across the workforce and everything that entails. Service management's being looked to provide omni-channels for engagement, communication and collaboration for both customers and employees. Service management's being looked to do more with automation, so artificial intelligence, robotics, removing human intervention in processes and service delivery. And service management continues to be looked at to drive enterprise service management way beyond the bounds of the IT department. And service management's also been looked at to find the best of breed practices to improve service delivery. And that not only includes ITIL, which is the default for most service management departments, but also looking to utilize and leverage lean and DevOps and agile. So how is all of that going to be possible, especially when the cracks are already showing? So this is a statement I wanted to share from Gartner, which sums up the situation. The amount of change employees can absorb without fatigue, and that's the negative reaction to change such as burnout, frustration, or apathy, has plummeted at a time when more change is precisely what organizations need in order to reset. And Gartner estimates that plummet in the ability of it for us to absorb change is half of what it was in 2019. So our ability to absorb change has halved, and yet the amount of change that we're being presented with has probably doubled. So faced with that reality, increasing change, increasing demand, how are we as service management going to deal with that? So as I said at the start, it's my firm belief that service management has to focus on creating a foundation of employee resilience in the face of constant, volatile, disruptive, unprecedented, uncertain, ambiguous change. We have to be able to stand up in the face of it and say, game on. This is a service management capability that will continue to grow, evolve, and improve regardless of what changes get thrown its way. This is service management that's resolute, reinvigorated, and revolutionized. So resilience is a word that's been bandied about since the start of 2020. And it's a shame because it's a really important word and I feel that it's lost its meaning. So I just wanted to take a moment to bust some myths about what resilience is and it isn't. You have it or you don't. No. Resilience research has proved that resilience can be learned. Some of us have resilient traits already that we can build on, and we can also learn others and improve our resilience. Resilient people don't get knocked down. They absolutely do. Resilient people are just like us. We will have setbacks and get knocked down. It's the way they get back up that is the differentiator. They see setbacks as opportunities to learn. They don't just bounce back, they bounce forward better for the event. having learnt from it and growing, development from it. Resilience is about dealing with negative emotions. No, it isn't. Resilient people have negative emotions, but positive ones too. And resilient people are self-aware. They understand what triggers their emotions. So they're able to regulate. And this is all in the area of emotional intelligence. So they can increase the triggers for positive emotions and decrease the triggers for the negative emotions. They can decrease the way they feel when it's a negative situation and amplify the positive situations. And resilient people do not need other people. Absolutely, they do. It is their connections and their network and the people they collaborate with that makes them resilient in the face of constant change and disruption. And finally, resilient people man up. They have the poker face. They hide their emotions. No, they don't. If they were hiding their emotions, they would not be resilient. They share how they feel with other people. They show their vulnerability, understanding that being vulnerable is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of courage. So having busted those myths, why should service management invest in the resilience of its people? What are the benefits for you as individuals in service management? Well, it will improve your well-being. You'll have better physical and mental health due to reduced stress, anxiety, and fatigue. It improves your thinking, your cognitive functioning. When you are not resilient, there's a lot of noise and distraction around you, and it will reduce your ability to be focused and pay attention. It improves your memory, problem solving, your reasoning, and will improve your decision making. It helps you remain calm in stressful situations. It enables you to respond to situations rather than react to them. And it enables you to see life as a series of challenges and opportunities, not just problems. It enables you to reframe situations, to see them from a positive perspective. And it enables you to recover from setbacks, as I've just talked about, and to see them as learning opportunities. Resilient people don't talk about failure, they talk about setback. And they know that without setbacks, they're not moving forward. So if you never have a setback, then you're not trying new things. So they bounce forward, not back. If we all just kept bouncing back, we would stop bouncing. And burnout, another word that unfortunately has become bandied about during the pandemic. And we need to avoid burnout. It's imperative. We need to reduce the stress and anxiety and fatigue and the depression that leads to burnout. And burnout is not somewhere you want to go or you want anyone to go. It's horrendous and it's a long way back. So there's lots of benefits for us as individuals to work on building our resilience. But why should the organisation, why should service management invest in building resilience? Well, if you have low resilience in your people, you will have low engagement, and that will be less productivity, less motivation, less innovation, and less creativity. And it will lead to attrition. You will lose the people you don't want to lose. So it will be difficult to attract and retain the talent in your organisation. Recent research by a company called DDI this year, 2021, said that 86% of your high potentials are at risk of burnout. The research also found that only 18% of leaders, 18%, felt able to help people avoid burnout. And they are scary statistics. And also the way in which organisations look after the mental and physical well-being of their people is now one of the top criteria employees look for when seeking an employer. If you have high-performing teams, it should go without saying that you have the competitive edge. You are ahead of the game. And there's a cost impact If you don't have resilient people, you'll have increased sick leave, absenteeism, presenteeism, and decreased productivity that all have a cost impact. And legislation in Australia and in Canada and some other countries now are following suit. There is legislation. In Australia, it says that if you are a company officer and you are found to be negligent in looking after the mental and or physical well-being of your people that results in a fatality, you can go to prison for up to 20 years with a major fine on top of that. So that translates that if you don't look after the mental well-being of your people and increase their resilience, that leads to stress, anxiety, fatigue, burnout, and suicide, you're looking at a 20-year jail sentence. So this is your get out of jail card. And probably for most organizations, the question is, what's my return on investment? Well, PricewaterhouseCoopers a number of years ago said the return for every dollar you spend in the workforce on the mental well-being of people, the return is 2.3. The World Health Organization have put that at a return of $4 for every dollar spent. HR Zone have reckoned that's $4.2. And the Health and Productivity Institute Australia, Happier, the great acronym, have reckoned it as high as 5.8, so nearly $6 for every $1 you spend. That's your return on investment. So how do you go about building a resilient workforce, a resilient service management? Well, before I tell you what you do need to do, this is what you don't do. Invest in point solutions, thinking that giving your employees a gym subscription will prevent them from burnout. That's rubbish. Giving them mindfulness sessions on a Friday afternoon will not reduce burnout. There's a lot more to be done. You need a holistic, a whole of organization approach, an approach that's embedded into the culture of the organization, an approach that's contextual. And by that, I mean you give people the resources they need, given the situation they find themselves in, given the challenge they're facing, given the adversity they're facing. So it's time to unleash the resiliator in service management. Let's watch.
Constant, volatile, uncertain, complex and ambiguous change is now our reality. As competition, customer and consumer demand and digital disruption increases, resilience is paramount to the endurance of you as an individual and your organisation. So how can you become resilient? Simple, by unleashing the resiliator within. Within us all are superpowers that we may have unknowingly used in the past to help us through various challenges in life. To become the resiliator, however, we need to become aware of these superpowers and nurture them so that we can use them on demand depending on the situation. Some situations may require only one superpower, while others may require multiple. Practice makes perfect, and the more you use them, the faster you'll be able to identify which superpower to use, and the better you'll become at using them. Luckily, we don't have to become experts in all of them. We just need to know what they do and when to use them. Once you learn how to unleash the resiliator within, you'll be able to achieve better physical and mental health, perceive life as a series of challenges, not problems, thrive in situations of high demand and ongoing pressure, view failures as learning opportunities, and bounce back from setbacks. Unconquered, triumphant, and undefeated.
So resilience is based on context. You need to provide your service management people with access to as many superpowers or resources, whatever you want to call them, that they can pull on as and when they need it, depending on the challenge, the adversity, the problems that they're facing. So, for example, if you're in service management and you're trying to solve a really complex problem and you're up against a deadline and you're feeling the stress and anxiety, going to meditation on Monday afternoon is probably not going to cut it. What you need is access to superpowers such as the problem solver and the collaborator to work with other people to resolve your problem. When you're trying to understand what's triggering your emotions, what triggers the negative emotion, what triggers the positive emotion, then you need access to the regulator to understand how you can increase the positive and decrease the negative. It's all about emotional intelligence. This isn't going to be achieved with yoga on a Friday. And you need the observer, so you can observe yourself from a distance and see what affects your behaviors. And if you're a leader and you're trying to encourage more innovation in your service management teams, then doing mindfulness on Thursday afternoon is not going to help. What you need is the caretaker that provides psychological safety, so people will be prepared to have a go. You need the reinforcer that will positively reinforce the behaviors you want to see. And you have the cultivator who cultivates a culture for innovation. So there is no one size fits all approach to mental well-being and resilience in the workplace. You cannot yoga yourself out of burnout. You need a holistic approach that's contextual and individualized, that belongs to the person and the situation that they're in. So how are we going to put this into practice? Well, this is your action plan, and we have 7 steps. So the first one is ask. It's not rocket science. Ask people how they're feeling. Ask them what they need. And listen. That sounds obvious, but I mean really, really listen. Remove your filters. Remove your biases so you can really hear what people are saying. What do they need? What's causing the stress and anxiety? So let's get to the root cause and remove that, rather than just deal with the impact that low resilience is having. Assess. We need to know where we are today. And there's many surveys, checklists, assessments out there now to measure resilience in your organization. You could make it as simple as asking people to rate how they feel on a scale of 1 to 5. It's not necessarily a scientific approach, but it gives you a sense of where people are at, so you can measure the progress. And then give people the resources that they need, provide them with the tools, provide them with the support, provide leaders with the education that they need in regard to increasing resilience and improving mental well-being. We need to monitor how we're going. So take a pulse check, do an assessment, however simple you can make it, just to get a sense of what's working and what's not, and then take action to increase people's resilience. Very much around Deming's plan, do, check, act. And then the final step is to rinse and repeat. Resilience is not finite. It's a continuum, and it should be subject to anything in service management should be subjected to, and that's continual service improvement. So continue to improve resilience, build on what's working and get rid of what's not working. So as I wrap up, I want to not provide you with more advice, but I want to give you a strategic 7-step checklist that you can use to determine if you have a service management resilient organization. So make sure you've got somewhere to keep track of your answers. They're all yes and no, and there's only 7 of them. So you could use your 7 fingers and put one up every time you say yes, or don't move it if it's no. So let's see how we go. So number 1, you must have an environment of psychological safety if your workforce is going to be resilient. And this means that everybody feels safe to speak up, to challenge decisions, to come up with new ideas, to ask questions without any fear of repercussion or being thought differently. So everybody in the organization needs to feel safe to speak up. do you have an environment across the entire service management organisation that has psychological safety? Yes or no? All of your leaders need to be custodians of their people. And this means that every leader leads with empathy, care, and compassion. It means they remove the stigma of mental health in the workplace, where people feel they can reach out for support to say, I am struggling and I need help, without being thought of differently. So are all your leaders, all of your leaders, custodians of your people in service management? Yes or no? Service management, the workforce needs to embrace change. Everyone, absolutely everyone, needs to say, yes, constant change is our norm. It's disruptive. We'll have to change direction. Bring it on. We embrace it. People don't resist it. They accept it as the norm. And they see change as an opportunity, not an adversity. So does everybody in your service management organisation embrace change? Yes or no? And everybody has to be able to adapt in the face of constant change. We need to be able to change the way we do things. We need to shift. We need to flex. We need to be able to change direction at the drop of a hat. We need to be able to adapt. If we don't adapt, we are not going to grow. So is everyone in your service management organisation, everyone able to adapt in the face of constant change? Yes or no? All your leaders need to be servant leaders. That means that they put their team, their service management team first and themselves second. They lead with inclusivity, regardless of where people are located. And they're committed to the professional and the personal development of every one of the people in service management. So are all your leaders, all of your leaders, servant leaders? And today, leaders need to be able to lead hybrid teams. Some leaders have been doing this for many years. They work in global organizations. They've had people located locally and remotely. But for most managers, this is something new in 2021, something they've not had to do before. And this is now bimodal leadership. Leadership when someone's co-located and leadership for the people that are working remotely. And they need to remove the proximity bias. Regardless of where people are located, they are treated with equity. And leaders need to be able to manage performance on outcomes, not keystrokes. So my question number 6 is, are all your leaders effective leaders of hybrid teams? And finally, everyone in your organization has to have emotional intelligence, period. Is everyone self-aware, recognizing their emotions and the effect not only on themselves, but on others? And is everybody then, having been self-aware, being able to self-regulate, to manage their emotions, their impulses and resources, and be able to respond to situations rather than react to them? So that's it, your 7-step checklist. So how did you go? If you scored 5 or more, congratulations. You're building a resilient and a healthy service management workforce and capability. If you scored between 3 and 4, you're getting there, but there's a way to go. And if you scored less than 3, I recommend some immediate action, quick, smart. You need to look after your greatest asset, that is your people. So regardless of your score, remember, improvement in resilience is as easy as reaching out for the right advice and guidance on the best way forward for your service management organisation. I thank you for listening.